Good morning, sports fans. Doug and our special guest, Kelly Tyner. We are live here at Gimbal World Headquarters, and for your safety, every single week, we give you these disclaimers. And even the first one where we have no crystal balls, but we used to, but we think it was stolen. Like even today, technology allows you like a Ring doorbell where you can kind of get a picture of those people. There's a lot of things to be afraid of out there. What are you afraid of, Doug?
Well, I'm afraid of snakes. Yeah, I was mountain biking in Arizona a few years ago, and the trail was a little too steep for me to ride up. And so I started to walk the bike up, and right next to me was a rattler. But it let me know it was there. There was a warning. And so I could have turned around, but I kind of walked right past it. And that's what you can do too in this stock market. You can just keep moving forward. So that's what I'm telling you today. It's been bad out there, but there's more biking, there's more trail ahead of you. So just keep going.
Wow. Kelly, are you afraid of anything?
Probably being bored would be a big one.
She's the fear of missing out is Kelly Tyner.
Yeah, fear of being bored.
Well, that's why she's hanging out here. Hanging out with me, you'll never be bored.
Exactly.
No, you're going to see your fears today.
Wow, nice work. That is a good word. Well, I don't know how long that we put this disclaimer up. There at the bottom, investment advice offered through Gimbal Financial, registered investment advisor, and a separate entity from LPL Financial. We'll be able to keep that there forever, that disclaimer, but in the weeks ahead, the one above it, securities offered through LPL Financial, will be shifting off of the screen, and you'll hear more about that in the future. And we'll replace that with a new disclaimer as that takes place. And we're happy to discuss that with any of you followers that might have questions, but we'll be reaching out to you. That's it for the disclaimers. Doug, talk to me. What do we need to know today?
Well, I was, just chatting with you guys earlier, and I was embarrassed to admit how much money the Shreves spent on gasoline last month. And hey, we're having a good time, and I got the gas receipts to prove it. But I was thinking, and I want to get into the stock market because I'm thinking we're about ready to. Well, I can't say. Let's just say I'm excited about capitalism. But what I'd like to get into for a little bit today is how do you fight inflation? That's what I'd like to get into. And here's my thought on it, is there are some things in life that it's worth making a scorecard every now and then. And one of those scorecards every now and then could be your personal budget or just inventory where you spend money. You don't have to go all Dave Ramsey on this. You don't have to do you need a budget online or anything like that. You can literally just write it down on a piece of paper, look at your bank statement, see where all your money is gone, look at your credit card, see where you're spending money. You can be as real and as honest as you want to be. Nobody's looking. And so writing it down, I found to be very helpful. And this is just not nerding out on spender versus saver. I tend to be more of a spender, but my wife tends to be more of a saver. And so here's where the art, here's where the love, patience, kindness, ... comes into play, is when you can communicate your budget or where you've spent money in a non-emotional way, in a loving way, with your spouse or with a trusted friend or trusted advisor, then you've got something really special. And that's a great way to fight inflation, is to just be honest and go and look, oh, we did spend a lot of money on gas or whatever, burritos, whatever it is. Just be honest. But that art of communication about your money, I think for most marriages can be a really difficult thing because we're opposites. It can be an emotional thing because of decisions in the past. But if you can approach it with some patience and some kindness, you can really fight inflation just by taking a look at where your money's going.
Yeah, I've got a piece of technology that would let me draw on the screen, but I haven't fine-tuned my skills. But a lot of times if you're in the office, I would draw like an arch, a spectrum, and on one side put a spender and one side put a saver, and ask couples to mark on that arch where each of them is. And then I connect the dots between those two marks and just say that's the communication barrier that's going to cause stress in your marriage. And fundamentally, I believe people are innately born spenders or savers. And if you happen to get married to somebody that is very close to you, there's not a lot of communication problems because you're naturally doing the same things. If you did get an opposite, there's that tendency to think my way is right, and I think you need a little bit of both.
Proof sometimes.
Yeah, well, you need a little bit of both. Like some of the funnest people to be around are the spenders, right?
Yeah.
The savers are like, I see some savers that are with us today, but sometimes you got to push those folks to spend some money. Well, Kelly, how would you say inflation is hitting you?
Gas prices, we were talking earlier, definitely see that filled up my tank this week, and I don't want to tell you how much I spent on that, but I felt that one for sure. And then grocery prices, that one's a little bit more sneaky. I was telling Dad and Doug that like chicken, for example, I know it's more expensive than it was last year, but it wasn't quite the same as gas prices where I saw the 20-cent jump. But I'm definitely feeling that when I go on my grocery runs.
I think this is my pointer today. I think the politician's going to have a hard time with this because my income's a tad bit higher than Kelly's. And so gas prices don't affect me as significantly as Kelly's way of life, or chicken prices going up. They affect Kelly in a much more difficult way than they would for me. And that's where there's more voters in that place. And so the politicians have a real challenge. And I've been telling you guys for weeks that it's your local, state, and federal politicians, along with the somewhat inept Federal Reserve, why we have inflation like we do. But and part of it could be Gimbal Financial, a bad place to put money for inflation is a piggy bank. But we have those for the newborns, because if you put money in here and you leave it alone a long time, it's going to be worth a lot less than what it was the moment you put it in there. So even though a piggy bank's a good way to teach savings, it's not a good way to teach investing.
Yeah, I had a conversation with a good friend of ours. His name's Brian. And Brian was reminding me of that. I said, hey, what was it like for you to be a business owner in the 70s? And he said, during inflationary times, investing in companies can be a really good thing. They're passing the cost on to the consumer. And so finding a good company to participate in is a great thing. This guy happened to be in the healthcare business, and he was sharing how aches and pains happen with stress. And so I want to encourage you too, that during inflationary times, or maybe you're getting ready to share this budget with your spouse and you're feeling the aches and pains, take care of yourself. Do some yoga, go for a walk, pray, whatever you got to do, but do not run away from it. Go into it.
I was talking to a nurse, it wasn't my own personal health problems. I had some challenges I was trying to think through yesterday. And she said, and she didn't even know me. I was almost cold called her to ask for some help about this issue. And she said, are you taking care of yourself? And I said, yes, I am. Yeah. And that's what we'd encourage you to make sure, no matter what's going on, you take care of yourself.
So one of the reasons Kelly's here is to help us with this. And it's been good advice. Like if you have a spouse or a loved one who's struggling with their health, it's real important for the caregiver to take care of themselves. And that's why you're here.
Partly she's here for that, but part of it is every week I'm trying to bring an innovation to you. And Kelly brings an innovation on a different way than something that's got pixels or something that has to do with the car or something. It's an innovation of how we age in place better.
Yeah. So I have worked for Senior Home Companions for the last almost 2 years. And for people that don't know, Senior Home Companions is a company in Indianapolis that provides caregivers to elderly adults so that they can stay in their homes and they don't necessarily have to transition to assisted livings or memory care units. The goal is to keep people in their homes and keep them comfortable as long as they want. So the innovation this week is that's a service that is provided all across the country. Senior Home Companion is just one of the great ones that's in the local area. And then Dad asked for another innovation. So here's another one for you for aging in place. And as you age, that therapeutic fitting is a good thing. For people that
I don't think you.
And what does that mean?
You didn't enunciate that very well. Say that second word again.
fibbing. So
Creative communication, is that what you're saying?
creative communication, that's definitely what I'm saying.
So you're telling me that when you're talking to the customers there, you're not always telling them exactly what they're asking.
That's not true. What I'm saying is, as people digress mentally, sometimes they get stuck in areas where they think maybe they're in their 30s when they're actually 85. And so they're wondering where their kids are. And so they're saying, I got to go pick up Jane from school. And you say, don't worry, I've already picked her up. So it gets them out of that thought cycle without causing some unnecessary distress in their lives.
So if I would say, come on, they're not in school, what happens?
Then we have sometimes an emotional outburst. It throws off their whole day. They're confused. You're causing unnecessary stress that could be avoided.
I watched your dad create a fib with your grandmother in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Your grandmother did not want to be in the nursing home. She just didn't. And I'll never forget it. Keith would go over there for like 10, 15 minutes every day, just kind of quick bursts. And I'd go with him sometimes. And Mom said one time, take me home. I want to go home. And Keith, I mean, just like this, he says, Mom, we're going to get you home as soon as that bump on your head is gone. That was beautiful. That was a beautiful, and so you don't have to like come out and just straight up lie. You are doing this for the benefit and for the love of your loved one.
Yeah, it's a real compassionate way to interact with somebody that isn't there fully mentally.
It's really hard if you're a black and white person, because it feels like you're lying when you're really not, and you can creatively come to some equilibrium for yourself. But the Alzheimer's Association has some literature to help you, because it's really difficult if you communicate exactly what they're asking you, because you're going to create unnecessary conflict, and it's probably going to ruin your day, ruin their day. And sometimes what I discover with dementia is that, as weird as it is, that dementia takes the short-term memory. If you get in a conflict, they can stay in that conflict for days. And so you can fight that battle by trying to be black and white, or you can breathe in and find somebody that can help you communicate better. Yeah, nice.
What'd you call it?
Therapeutic fibbing.
Therapeutic fibbing.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Try it out today for free.
I highly recommend it. I tried it one way and then I tried it the other. And
we only accept positive Google reviews. So if you need to do some therapeutic fibbing on our Google review.
Kelly, thanks for joining the Gimbal show today. It's been a treat having you. That was a real great surprise. So let me shift real quick to the stock market. And if you want to exit the stage, Kelly, as soon as I throw the market up here, it'll give you a chance to escape without anybody seeing you leave the scene here. So
that's like what pastors do during like prayer.
Yeah.
And so some elder will get up and pray, and then all of a sudden you open your eyes and the pastor's up front giving a sermon. Have you guys ever noticed that?
it's like magic.
Yeah.
All right, I'm almost to that point where she'll disappear. There we go. She's in the small picture there, but the big picture is the NASDAQ composite here. Doug, what do you think about this picture?
Well, if you want to hover your cursor over the last trading day.
Yesterday?
Yeah. And
Right
then I have to put on my binoculars here, but what does it say? We're off what from the 200?
Oh, right there. We are
Is that 25%
below the 200-day moving
Yeah.
average.
And so I was spending some time just taking a look at the worst bear markets of all time.
Yeah.
That's like watching like a plane crash YouTube series before you go on vacation.
Or you go to sleep at night.
But that's what I was doing this morning, is I was taking a look at like the worst bear markets of all time.
Yeah.
We're not there yet.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't mean that this one's going to go to the worst.
No,
either.
and
Yeah.
I'm not saying that at
Yeah.
all. I don't think that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is this stuff happens.
Right.
You know,
right.
this stuff happens. We have retraces and it hurts. There's no sugarcoating that. This hurts. But when you look at it, I think, hey, we're getting close. I'm starting to see news headlines of bears and red colors and down arrows. And that tells me that some of the weaker hands have been shaken out.
It has a person that I really appreciate their point of view, David Ryan. I saw him talking about earlier this week that usually a bear market will have 3 down legs. And I would say this, if you're saying what are the down legs on this one, I would say this right here is definitely a down leg from November. Well, that's probably December on the S&P through March. We rallied off of that. Then we got this down leg here. And then we had a rally off of that. And the one that happened this week, if you compare these sell-offs here, each one of these are single days in the market. And those are 3 harsh days in the market that happened. Really, I think it started, was it Thursday last week? And then while we were talking to you on Friday last week, and then Monday, and then we still had a little bit of leakage going on here earlier, but definitely we want to see some down here in the volume level of this thing. We'd love to see these blue lines get long like they were maybe over here a little bit, where you have some blue lines coming into it, but the red has been dominating the volume here. That means the selling has been dominating it. And I think that just becomes problematic if you're already in. It creates some psychological challenges for you on thinking, what do I do here? And it really makes it hard for us. I heard somebody say that there's an old saying. I'll turn off this share screen here real quick. There's an old saying that it's not time. Timing the market, it's time in the market, and that sounds really good.
Yeah.
And it's probably very good advice if you're 20 years old. The older you get, then it doesn't mean you have to go to bonds, because you could go into, we've been in a 40-year bull or upward trending bond market. You could go into a 40-year bear bond market if interest rates keep trending upward for a long time. And so bonds over the last 40 years have been a good hedge to portfolios, or a buffer, or a flotation device for your portfolio. But if interest rates trend upward for a long time, then that may not work what used to work. And so there's just different thoughts of those sort of things.
Yeah, maintenance comes to mind with money. Just it's like a vehicle or anything else, a house, an asset. It requires some maintenance. It requires some pivots from time to time, and some repairs from time to time. And I wanted to ask you your thoughts on just kind of quantifying some things. So tell me about your thoughts on the net worth statement. Like, you're a believer in keeping your net worth statement updated. What is the motivation behind that, and even communication with clients?
Yeah, well, when I was studying for my CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation, which I've kind of let go for some reasons that have to do with more of it. I perceive it's become more of a regulatory body than a body that helps us do what we do better. And so when I was studying for that, they used 2 documents primarily to help you with your financial plan. One was a net worth statement, which is in business you call it a balance sheet. It shows you all that you own, then you list all that you owe, and that gives you your net worth. And then if you take the income statement, that shows you all your sources of income, and then you subtract out all of your expenses. That's free cash flow at the bottom. Those 2 things work together. You can't, if you look at both of those, you can get a feel for what's going on in somebody's situation. If you didn't give me both your income statement and your net worth statement, but say you gave me your net worth statement and what you earn, I can pretty quickly look at your net worth statement and gauge some behavioral ideas on how you live without you telling me. I can look at the balance sheet or the income, the net worth statement, and gather that. And so what it helps me personally do is just to monitor where we are as a family. I don't personally use budgets, and I know some of you do use budgets, but I'm a saver and Connie's a saver, and using a budget, I don't know an analogy I could tell you. If we're both savers, we're not inclined to spend, so we wouldn't be inclined to have to turn something down. We just live that way. But if if both of us were spenders, a budget would probably help us to turn down the volume of what we're spending. So when I look at our net worth statement, what I'm looking at, and I try to do it once a year, I don't do it every week, but yeah, but when I look at it from year to year, I can just see where we've made adjustments. And then I can explain, like, if our financial assets, stocks, are not more this year than last year, I could say, well, the Tyners haven't been saving very well this year. Or I could say, I've been in a bear market, and it would be unreasonable for me to think that our financial assets or stock market assets would be higher, because the 75% of stocks will follow the trend of the market. So to think that you could outpace the market in a downward trending market and be fully invested is not really logical. And we have a local pharmaceutical company that a lot of our clients have worked at, or a number of our clients have worked at, and it has defied the underlying market. And so if they had a lot of money in that this year, and they were to look at their balance sheet, they wouldn't even know probably they'd been in a bear market, whereas all their friends who didn't work there probably would have a much different story looking at their balance sheet or their net worth statement. I don't know if that answers your question, Doug.
Yeah, and I think one of my wins for this week happened through one of you, just seeing how you're handling your life, and that balance sheet has increased. And this is for a person who, like you, Keith, just the spending part of life just isn't that exciting to them. But the balance sheet has increased, and so the thought is, well, what are we going to do with this? And what type of decisions could we make that would be exciting and purposeful? And those types of conversations are really interesting to have. And you have choices. You have options, what you can do with your rising assets, or maybe you get a windfall and there's life to be lived. You can take it and spend it on something, maybe not even yourself. It might be on someone you don't know, but using those resources to express creativity is pretty neat to see. So thank you to you who made that happen this week for me.
I'm a little offended that you say that I don't spend money, Doug, because and I want to brag on this media here, but I bought a Porsche 911 recently. So
I like 911s.
So
that's a fine German car.
Well,
There's nothing more. I mean, that is just a timeless car.
Well, I knew my savings was getting a little high, and I literally, it took me 6 months to come to this conclusion, and so I thought I'd just share with you guys my acquisition here. And then again, I don't like to boast, so here you go. This is my 911. It was a Lego 911, and this is Caleb giving me.
It's really big.
He's giving me a teenager smirk because he didn't want me taking a picture of that thing. But why I bought that 911, and I think what Doug was talking about goes in the same vein, is I was given a gift for Christmas on an Amazon gift card. There we go. Doug's got one.
My boys bought me a 911 for Father's Day a few years ago. Let's step that up here in a few years, boys.
Yeah. And so I had this money in an Amazon gift card, and I just didn't have anything else stirred that I wanted. And I was able to perceive that if I bought this particular Lego 911, it would give me time with Caleb. And so it was a fun expenditure. And probably with that, I got in contact with a Lego expert, because I realized that that may be a timeless thing that Caleb and I can do. And he was helping me better understand which Legos to buy for a variety of reasons, but me being the practical one I am, he said that if you buy these kind, they'll probably be worth more 5 years from now than when you bought them.
What a trophy to be able to see your son build that. And I know some of you do that. You build Legos with your kids, and that is precious time. I am living that dream right now. The month of June for the Shreves is pretty sweet. Our younger two are still riding to swim practice in the mornings with the goggles on their heads and towels around their necks on their bicycles, riding to swim practice. And life just doesn't get much better than that. I've been following them to practice, not for the sake I'm not a helicopter parent, but just for the joy of seeing my kids in action. Man, that's just good living.
And I think, you know, what Gimbal is particularly good at is cheering you guys on to living your best lives. And so taking resources from your balance sheet and helping the next generation live their best life. It won't show up ever again, maybe on your own particular balance sheet, but it may store in the souls of those loved ones for the rest of their days, and maybe even to the grandkids' days. And it doesn't have to be a Lego 911. Maybe you're in a situation where a real 911 might fit
That's
your
right.
budget. That's not
That's
everybody, but there's nothing wrong with sharing with the next generation the blessings that you've received.
Yeah, that is exciting stuff. Hey, and we just want to encourage you with your money, with your treasures, with your talents. And when we go through markets like this, hey, let's keep talking about it. I would say that I'm really optimistic about capitalism. There's freedom, there's expressions of creativity, and sometimes out of the darkest moments, that's where these things begin. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. I don't know when it's going to be. Keith doesn't, you don't, nobody knows, but we want to be ready for it. And the best way to be ready for it is sometimes just to take an assessment of where we are today.
Yeah, and although we may, you know, for several, probably months, we've been very cautious about this market. I would say maybe even 6 to 9 months, we've been very cautious. But our optimism is what drives our caution even. And just even if you consider the artwork right behind Douglas there, the largest animal in that picture over Doug's head is a bull. And just to his right, there is a bear that is being, maybe that's to his left. I'm looking at it in reverse, that's kind of being crushed. And so the bears come and go, but the bulls really drive prosperity. And we believe bull markets are out there. And so as you're going about your weekend, if you feel any stress about your finances, Doug and I were just talking about earlier today, the greatest way to get rid of stress in your life is to talk about it with somebody you trust. And we love you and care for you. And we're here to talk to you about anything going on that's pertinent to your living your best life.
I want to give one more shout out to someone this week who just made my day. I was talking with a client of ours, and he says, "Doug, why did you sell this stock?" And he said, "When you guys bought that, I was bragging to my friends that I own this stock now. I've always wanted to own this stock. And then you go sell it. Why did you do that?" And we just walked through that decision, like the why, and why we even bought it and why we would sell it. And so if you're one of our clients and you're one of those people who are thinking, why in the world did they sell that? And you may know the one that I'm talking about. It's a popular one. I would love to get your feedback and hear you out on it, and then share, you know, just kind of what's motivating us these days. So I'll just leave you with that.
Well, I'll chime in. We're both freaks. We get to do this as a hobby as well as our profession. And so I was looking at some stocks last night, one of which we sold several weeks ago, but it's a national brand name software manufacturer, and it looked like we had a good chance to buy it, in our kind of monitoring sold us out of it, and probably a small loss. And I was thinking, man, we could buy back into that thing very cheaply now. One day we may own it again. Today, probably not. But you guys have a great weekend. It's great to be alive and making the most out of every day. See you guys real soon.